Everybody, welcome to What Up Baltimore. This is Lady J. I have a special show coming on tonight. We're back on with the pandemic and stuff going on. It's been difficult to, but we're all going through it. Everybody's going through it, just trying to get back online, get back on track. So finally, I've been able to get everything set up and do it from my house, which is a little weird, but I'm making it through. So tonight, I really want you to start sharing the video. You guys have been doing good with sharing the video, letting people know that we're on. Tonight, we have a very special brother coming on, Mr. Phillip Westry. I'm excited to interview him, so I'm about to bring him on the screen. Please share the video. We're only on from 8 to 9 o'clock. This is What Up Baltimore. The song you just heard was What's Going On, because I'm like, what is going on? Between the pandemic and the crime in Baltimore City, what in the world is going on? So we're going to bring on Mr. Phillip Westry. I'm also going to bring up my godson, Mr. William Lassane, who's now co-hosting with me. So I'm going to bring those two up, and I'm just going to we're going to get started, and we're going to do the best we can, everybody. We're going to do the best we can. So let me get these two up on the screen. We got Mr. Phillip Westry coming up. Hey, Phillip, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. We got my godson, William.
What's going on? What's up?
How you doing? So
chilling.
I think, Phillip, you and William met when we were at Donnie Glover's event. I think that's where we all met each other at Donnie Glover's event. And before I get started, Phillip, you're not going to remember this conversation at all. But when I first met you, I was talking to you and you were telling me, about running and all of that. And I was talking to you because I was telling you I was networking at the time because I wasn't sure where I was supposed to be, what I was supposed to be doing. And you just told me to keep going. You were like, you're going to be great. Just keep going. And you gave me so many encouraging words that night. I walked out of there and I was like, well, I don't know who he was, but he said I was going to be great. So I just want to thank you, brother, because right now I have 3 shows. I have traveled so many different places within the past. William will tell you, within the past year, it's been absolutely amazing. And I just want to thank people like you who really speak into somebody's life and just give positive feedback, positive words, because you may have forgotten the conversation, but I did not. I appreciate it. I saw you again at my favorite place. That was Cine Bistro. Yep. Ran into you there, and you were still giving me positive words, gave me a big hug. So thank you for that. I'm going to send you a message privately and tell you what's coming up for me next in a few days, because I haven't made the announcement yet, but I just want to send it to you because you were so positive in my life. And thank you so very much. I appreciate it. Because I had no idea what I was going to be doing. That was just last year, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it was last year.
I remember both conversations, actually. So,
oh, you do? Okay, cool. Okay, good. Well, thank you so much. That really made a difference because I was struggling trying to figure out what I was supposed to be doing. So you were like the first person that year who actually said, you're going to be great. Keep working at it, and gave me some positive words of wisdom. So thank you so much. I'm so happy that now I get to interview you on one of my shows. Yeah. And I want to say thank you because all of the shows are doing super well. They're keeping me really busy. So thank you so much. I'm excited about having you on. And I want to congratulate you on running. I see you out there. You got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm going to be quiet and let you introduce yourself and tell us all about you and what you were running for.
Well, yeah, first off, so many people have done the same thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, how many people know this. I'm an attorney, and there aren't a lot of Black attorneys, and there especially aren't a lot of Black attorneys who get a chance to kind of be in the community this way.
Right.
Oftentimes, we finish school and then we got to go and try to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was on the bus. I was in law school, had one of these big law school books. Actually, I normally had one nearby, and the older gentleman was like, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, this is con law. I'm in law
Mm-hmm.
school." He and I talked for like 10 minutes. And when we were done, he said, "You got to go out and do something good for the community. You got to make sure that you're giving back to us." And that wasn't the first time I had heard someone say that, but it touched me. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I have to make sure that I commit to our community. And that's what I've been doing pretty much since I got out of law school.
Wow.
Uh, I, yeah, I started off doing foreclosure prevention at this place called St. Ambrose Housing Aid Center.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was there for about 5 years. And there I was helping people who were facing mortgage foreclosure and tax sale foreclosure. They were facing the loss of their first home or their family home. I saw family members bickering over each other, bickering over a house that was left by a parent that didn't have a will. Like I really saw our community, and it inspired me to just kind of keep going and
Mm-hmm.
keep doing more work like this. And the last place that I was at, I was doing for what was it called? Consumer debt collection cases and landlord tenant cases. Again, just helping the community, trying to help people get to that next place, get to a place where they can save, get to the place where they can invest, and get to that place where they're comfortable and they can start thinking about their kids and what they want to do for their family in the future. So I feel very blessed to be in that position. And anytime I see somebody who's positive like you out
Yeah.
here doing your, I always feel like it's important for us to try to lift each other up that way.
Right. 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 Well, I really appreciate it. I'm sure there are a whole bunch of people that you have lifted up that may not ever get a chance to tell you thank you. You know, you may not pass their way again, but I'm definitely going to give you kudos for just being a positive person and a positive force out in our community because we don't see that a lot, and that's what's lacking. So thank you so much. And tell us about the district that you're running for.
Yeah. So I'm running in District. It is Center East. So think on the west side of my district is places like Mount Vernon, and on the east side of the district is places like Oliver and Broadway East. So right there on the edge of where Hopkins Hospital
Yeah.
starts, that's on the side. Douglas Homes is part of the district, and then you go all the way up north to 29th Street,
Okay.
and it's a very diverse district. It has lots of different types of people, lots of different types of communities. The hardest hit communities are my communities on the east side of Greenmount Avenue,
Mm.
and it's a place where it feels like the city hasn't invested enough, and then also a place where people feel like they've been left behind. So every once in a while, they'll see some development starting in their neighborhood, but they're not feeling like they're a part of it. Or they feel like they're not going to get an opportunity to own one of these new homes that are being developed down the street because they cost 3 and 4 times what they used to cost.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of the conversation that we're having. Just the district, like I said, very diverse, and really it's one of those places that I fell in love with. And I worked on 25th Street at St. Ambrose, and it
Mm-hmm.
was right in the middle of it. It's just, how Baltimore is.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's always
Mm-hmm.
the people that get you. The people are the ones that make the city. And I am 12th district, and I'm running, and I have a really good shot to win this thing.
Wow. Yeah, I've been watching you. I see you do. I've been watching that. William, did you have any questions for him? Because I'll keep going on and on. Just jump in there.
Well, first, man, nice to meet you, brother. Thank you for
Nice
what
to
you're
meet you.
doing. Nice to meet you too, sir. Just kind of listening, taking notes right now. Mr. Phillip, where are you from?
Yeah, I grew up in Glen Burnie.
Okay.
My parents are from Mobile, Alabama.
Okay.
Mom and dad, and
Okay.
my dad was in the military, and that's what got my family out of Mobile. And my dad and mom ended up at Fort Meade. They divorced when I was about 5 or 6 years old, um, and we eventually, ended up in Glen Burnie. And I got into law school here about 13 years ago.
Wow.
University of Maryland, right?
University of Maryland, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I mean, it's good to have a fellow Marylander here and someone who's invested. I always look for someone who is invested, someone who's, I got another brother who's from Alabama, Willie Flowers. I don't know if you know that name, but
I
he's a brother. Cool brother. But I just love, to see first, if I can be honest, just a black brother, killing the game, but someone who's invested in the community, who wants to see people, and then additionally our people do better. So I
Yeah.
always look for that. I always tell my godmother that I look for authenticity when I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking to someone, when I'm hearing somebody, or just sitting and listening and taking notes intently. And then the fact that you came right out of law school and committed to the community,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
is 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 what see, I got my shirt on. I don't know if you can see it, but it just say Baltimore
Yeah,
City.
I see it.
So
I
I'm
see it.
always repping, always putting on for where I'm from. And so the fact that you would take an invested interest, because some people go to law school for all different kind of things, and they worry about making money, right when they come out, because of course some people have loans and things like that. So I just want to give you
I see my
congratulations.
phones now.
No, fact. But I'm saying
If you
that
know anybody,
listen, I got some loans too. But the good thing, Philip, is that we don't hear that side of the story. Like when you think of yourself or Stacey Abrams, we don't typically hear that people still have loans, that they still paying loans or whatever the case may be. So just in listening to your consistency of 5 years and dealing with foreclosure prevention and mortgage and tax sale and things like that, man, that's the groundwork. That's the
Mm-hmm.
groundwork. That's the groundwork for caring and working on behalf of our people, consumer debt collection. Let me ask you this question, because something I heard and I'm hearing more, especially in your case for the district you're running for, is the disparities of the district. Is the
yeah,
disparities, and I got another brother running for 14th district over in East Baltimore, Joseph Kane, and
oh,
when you look at those districts over in East Baltimore, it's a huge disparity. My mother's from Lafayette Projects, and so when you're talking about Douglas Homes and in deep in East Baltimore, Oliver and Broadway versus the other
yeah,
side of your district, which is kind of doing a little better. How do you kind of speak to the disparity of one side, but not forget the other side as well? Because I think the other side, when you talk about John Hopkins and things like that, seem to have been taken care of or doing well. How do you kind of be everything for everybody?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Good
funny because
question. Yeah.
you feel like you're talking to two different. It's almost like two different districts.
Hmm.
So, for example, I just got endorsed by a group called Bike More, and they're big advocates for the increase of bikes, and
Yes, sir.
they're also a big advocate for increases in like transit access and all that. The truth of the matter is, on the east side of my district, the side like I was telling you, east of Greenmount,
Hmm.
people aren't concerned about bikes. They're a little
Hmm.
bit more concerned about violence. They're a little bit more concerned about blight.
Right.
And what I
They more concerned about the buses. They ain't-
Mhm.
exactly, and what I've told the people who live on this side is, I was like, you got to recognize that our district is bigger than just your neighborhood,
Yeah.
and if you want to bridge, because some people do want to, they want to do better. They want to kind of bring things together. But
Hmm.
I was like, you got to listen to everybody, because I said if you're not listening to people who are dealing with the real issues,
Yes,
they're
sir.
not going to hear about your bike lanes.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I said, and so I said this to honestly to the people who are at Bikemore, and they got it. I was like, we got to talk about our elderly people, how they're getting to grocery stores. We got
Hmm.
to talk about how our young people are getting to schools. And our elderly person, she's not going to likely be getting on a bike. She's going to need good public transportation, or even more, she might need a grocery store that's closer than having to take a hack or having to take multiple bus lines.
Come on.
That's what. But they got it. I was like, this is how I'm going to approach it.
Yes, sir.
I was like, but know that we can do more if you're looking at the whole district, more than just your one piece. And they were with it, and they liked that push. I was like, no, when I get in, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be, my eye is going to always be keenly on the east side of Greenmount Avenue.
Yes, sir. Can I ask one more follow-up question?
Well, most definitely.
How when you look at your district and we look at East Baltimore, how do we get to a place where we don't call East Baltimore John Hopkins? How do we get to a place where we don't rename East Baltimore John Hopkins? Because it seems as though they're taking over everything, and they're one of the biggest real estate investors or developers in East Baltimore, and one of the, I would hope, the biggest job creators or job sustainers. So what is that battle like, or what is that partnership like when working with the entities such as John Hopkins and holding them accountable as well?
That battle with Hopkins goes back basically from the beginning of Hopkins. Like it goes back from I think it was like 1890s.
I was born at Hopkins.
I mean, and this is, actually, I try to tell my friends, because I have people who I met, they just got here a few years ago, and they're always like, well, it seems like Hopkins is doing great. Like, why do people have a beef with Hopkins? I tell them, I said, Hopkins devalued people's homes. They had a strategy, and it's written, and they even talk about it now, and they recognize that it was wrong. But they looked at this. They looked at some of our neighborhoods and said, I'm going to continue to buy up these vacant homes around certain people's property and not fix them up.
Right.
And force the value down until those people either walk away from the house or they have to sell it for cheap to Hopkins. That happened to Black people. That happened to poor folks. And I say it goes back generations. It's not one of those things that you just forget. Because I talked to people and they said my mother lost her house to Hopkins because of this, and they break it down. So that's a generational memory thing that people aren't going to be like, oh, you know what, Hopkins is doing all these great things now, and so now it's holding Hopkins accountable for that history, not just what they're talking about they're doing today. One of the other issues with Hopkins is the pay that they come in with, the fact that they're unions to come in to Hopkins for their nurses and for really a lot of the other staff. They allow for unionization of their maintenance staff, but not other parts. Like, we need to hold them accountable, because that stuff keeps people's money down, and they are our biggest here in the city. Those just a few things.
And let me say this, Ms. Charlene, really quickly.
Go ahead.
Hopkins is known for name reputation throughout the entire world, internationally, globally. But it's just a brand. Their pay has not historically been good, and you've had workers strike over their pay. Even when you talk about what they've done with Henrietta Lax's cells. So Hopkins has historically not been kind to our people, unfortunately. But once again, like you said, they're one of the biggest employers in the city and possibly in the state.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring. I don't know how much time we have. But
you got time, Phillip. Go ahead.
I wanted to bring up a couple of things I've been seeing recently. Like I said, I have this history in housing, and as you all know, right now there aren't any evictions going on.
Right. Yes, sir.
I want to put some information out there for people. People have reached out to me and told me that their landlords are still trying to evict them, even though that they legally can't do that right now. There is no evictions going on right now in Baltimore City or in the state of Maryland. If your landlord is threatening to remove your things, if they change the locks, if they cut off the water, if they get into the basement and turn off the power, all of those things are illegal. They're criminal offenses, and there's a place that you can go. You go to the district court commissioner. They're at 500 North Calvert Street.
Okay.
I'm putting that out there because it's still going on. There,
Wow.
there are landlords out there who believe that, they're going to just take it in their own hands to remove people.
Hmm.
Just something I want to make sure is out there and that people are thinking about. And if you know anybody, look, you got my cell phone number.
Yeah, yeah.
Text me.
Hmm.
Because people feel hopeless too.
And
And
you
those
said 500 North Calvert?
500 North Calvert. Let me
Okay.
check, make sure the address is right. I'm pretty sure it's 500 North Calvert. 500. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I'm definitely thankful for that because one of my biggest
Hmm.
passions is housing, and definitely dealing with homelessness and just what you're doing, just that information. Uh, Sometimes, man, in Baltimore, it seems like the information that we need are like best kept secrets. So
Yes.
that's pertinent, really important information, and a lot of people seem to hoard the information or the programs or
Mhm.
don't nobody know, and so you have a lot of people, even elders. Something that I learned recently, and I'm just going to keep this last segment in housing, that I've seen a lot of elders being forced or people trying to take their homes from them. And if they have no one to fight, sometimes
Yeah.
they die off and lose the house, or if they don't have any family, they're threatened and bullied until people try to come in and steal their houses from them.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things and about the commissioner, they're open 24 hours a day. So for example, if you're sitting in your house right now and the landlord cuts the power, you can go to the commissioner's office 24 hours a day, still open. And then back to your point about some of our older folks and what happens to their housing. I've I've been one of my biggest things about wealth creation and wealth preservation in our community. And it's crazy when somebody has paid off a house and has done all the right things, and then they pass away. They don't have a will, and that happens. And there are lots of places you can get free wills done, but I know sometimes in our community we're a little skittish about getting wills done, but
Right,
it's
right.
worth it because I try to tell my older folks, your kids seem great right now. They seem like they're like everything's fine, but there will be a breakdown in most cases when you pass away.
Hmm.
So first thing I see is there's multiple kids, no will. There's always a kid who's living with mom or dad and they've been taking care of mom and dad and they feel, some sense of entitlement to have the house. That's legitimate. And there's
Hmm.
always a kid who lives somewhere else. They might live in the county, they might live in another state.
Hmm.
Then there's always a trouble kid who might have some
Hmm.
issues with like anything, and these three almost never agree with each other. And
Hmm.
the scenario I've seen is that a house that is paid off
Come
gets
on,
lost
sir.
in taxes. It
Hmm.
gets lost in fees. And think about that. That is tens of thousands of dollars of wealth that
Yeah.
pretty much evaporates,
Yep.
Yes, sir.
because people couldn't agree. Let's pay these taxes until we figure out if we want to renovate the house. Let's pay these taxes until we figure out if we want to sell it. Let's pay these taxes and figure out if we want to keep it. But it's so much better to pay the taxes while you give everybody a chance to think about what you want to do next, and then always remember that you're family,
Right.
um, and that this thing, it's just property.
Hmm.
Don't let that like break those bonds of family. It's the things I've seen in just 7 years of practice is it's unfortunate, but I think again it's just having that information out there. It's again I don't want to hoard it away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Michelle, I had two things, but I'm gonna let you
No,
go.
no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead, William. You good. You good.
So one, um, I'm gonna say this in two different ways. I hear your expertise, right? And it's wide ranging because housing in Baltimore has historically been something that we need, just as an entire city, but as in our community. Um, but I don't want to pigeonhole you to that one expertise because I know you
Mhm.
are so wide ranging, not just housing, not just law, but since you have a law background, I want to throw a couple things at you in regards to the criminal justice system, bail reform, and want to throw at you uh, what do you think about this current climate that we have of crime in the city? And you know, on the flip side of it, you as a black man doing so much greatness from your background in the city, what positive do you see? Because I think oftentimes we only talk about the negative. So I'm just wondering what positives are you seeing currently, in the past, present, and going forward in the future?
Mm. So before I started practicing law, I used to work with high school students here in the city, doing a mentoring program.
Mm-hmm.
I was also leading the mayor's executive internship and the city council page program. I've always, the positive is when us adults look at our young people as children and treat them like children, let them have those mistakes, let them learn from those mistakes, and then also be looking at them to build them up.
Yes, sir.
You know, I feel so lucky, like I said, to be able to like talk to a kid just like this. One of the things when I work with kids, I always would tell them, they were like, "Where are you from?" And first, I'm like,
facts. That's why I asked.
Yep.
I grew up in Limburg, and
yeah,
because the worst thing you can do to a young person is lie to them.
Come on.
They'll see through it.
Yes, sir.
And then as soon as they realize you care about them, and that you're another person thinking about them, it changes everything. Like I have seen outcomes change, and I mean, listen, one of the things that people don't realize when they meet me, and you know, I'm a lawyer and all that stuff, and that's really, and I mean, I'm very happy to have made it this far in my education. But I told y'all about my parents and them breaking up in the early '90s. My dad has a serious issue with drugs, and he's had it since 1992. He got kicked out of the military. Wow. One of the things I always tell people, young people, when I talk to them, I say, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. One, and I said, and then recognize that you might be in a bad situation. I was like, but you have role models. Sometimes they're not easy to find, but and that's the other part. Us adults, we got to start sharing our stories. Because the kids sometimes think that we haven't gone through what they've gone through. I mean, I've told my kids, like, listen, we went to yard sales, we went to thrift stores to pick up, little clothes. When I was a kid, I got very used to just hand-me-downs and things like that because mom just couldn't afford it.
Yes, sir.
But that's we had that open conversation because I mean, listen, I put on a nice suit. I mean, when I'm in my lawyer mode, I look good. But I was telling kids, I was like, there, and you can make it, but you got to like set a plan, and I'll be with you to make that plan come through. But there's steps, and that's the positive. When we see our kids go wrong, is when we criminalize them at a very young age. When we throw them away at a young age, that's the part where it's negative. When we scapegoat them, it makes me nervous a little bit. Some of the folks who are running for mayor, when they talk about kind of going backwards and doing this thing where we're going to like throw everybody in jails, especially our kids, especially our young boys, because people look at young black men and they just assume so many things. So that part is on us. Like we have to make sure that when we elect folks, that we're electing people who won't look at our kids as the bad kids. They won't throw our kids away, and they won't say, "Oh, look, I got rid of those kids on the corner," because it's easier just to lock them up than to give them an opportunity to do something better. That's
yes, sir.
We gotta that the investments really have to come from us as individuals too.
Right. I mean, I absolutely love what you're saying, because we are in an age where people want transparency. They want to know the truth. They want to know the real you. And I'm all about that. So I love what you just said about just letting people know who you are. Now, my question now, Phillip, is I just have a huge concern for our city with this coronavirus going on. People not really taking it seriously. And there's been so many times when I've watched the news, even in my own neighborhood, and I live in a relatively quiet neighborhood. Now the dirt bikes are coming through, and I live on a one-way street. They're going down the one-way street and hanging out. And I think they choose their neighborhood because it's quiet, older people in the neighborhood. So they hang out at the corner. A couple weeks ago, someone was stabbed at the corner. And so I'm looking at this going on, and they're not really taking it seriously. And at the same time, we have our murder rate is still going on. And it's so for me, it's really, really scary because I have a 24-year-old. Now the college is out or whatever they're doing. He's supposed to graduate in a couple of weeks, but no graduation. But him even being home, a lot of times I get nervous when he goes out because I'm just like, you worry about if he's going to make it back home. And he's a good kid. Like he, get ready to graduate from college, and go do some other things. But it's like I get so nervous sometimes, when I see him go out. And then at the same time, like I said, we have young people who are out here, and even some adults who are out here just hanging out. I was watching the news one night, and one of the young men that they interviewed, I thought it was like, when I heard what he said, it kind of hurt me. But what he said was he would rather be out in the street enjoying his life because he has a better chance of dying, of being alive. He said he's not worried about the coronavirus because he has a better chance of being hit by a bullet. So he was just taking his chances, and he said, I'm just going to be out here on the street. And that was really sad to me. So I'm always wondering, how do we get Baltimore back to where it needs to be? Because we're now known as the city of crime, with a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah, this virus thing has been this has been wild. Like the best thing I've told somebody is that like this might not hurt you, but like your grandmother, your mother, and none of us are immune from it. Like I mean, there are people who are in their 30s who have gotten this and who have gotten really bad condition from it. And it's they've gotten that condition because they didn't know they had a pre-existing condition.
Right.
Like I can have an issue with my lungs and not know it until I catch this.
Right.
Something that might not have hit me until a couple years down the road. It's like valuing life is like it's hard. I would love to have seen that interview. It's crazy. I was talking to a young lady. She works at Future Care on 25th Street, like 25th and Charles, Safeway. I'm on the phone with her because we're making these phone calls because we can't.
Right.
And the lady she said she's at home. She's quarantined because she caught the coronavirus at work.
Wow.
And she was a bit upset with her employer and all that because she feels like they should have known. And her employer, like I said, is Future Care. And she was like, she told me she's telling everybody, she's like, take it serious. She said, because she was a young, healthy person. And she said she feels okay, but she was like, it was probably one of the worst times she's ever gotten sick.
Wow.
And yeah, the truth is, I'm not sure how to convince some people. And that's the thing. Remember, we can't convince everybody. Because I don't know if you've been watching the national news. People who Trump supporters who are grown.
Yes.
Who should know better.
Yes.
They're on the street. They're saying, everything will be fine. And these are people who actually could be at risk.
Right.
How we get people to listen to science and get people to listen to and to value their life and other people's lives. That's one of those deep philosophical questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just also feel like, a lot of people in our city, to me, it seems like they've lost hope, and they've given up, which kind of saddens me too, because, I hate to see people lose hope and give up because so people have so much promise. They don't even understand how much promise they have. But I've met and doing my shows, Philip, I've been amazed to be out on the street and meet so many people who have not been outside of Baltimore. And I'm talking about people like 20, 30 something, 40 something years old. And the wild part for me was meeting people who live like on the west side, but they've never been to the east side. And it just like, I could not, like, it's the city. And then DC is what, a 35, 40-minute drive. So for me,
Yeah.
It's really been eye-opening because not doing shows, I didn't know these things, but actually being out with the people and doing all these shows, I'm learning so much. And at the same time, it's like they have no hope. You know, when I'm talking to them, they have absolutely zero hope. And I just often wonder, how do we get, especially our young people, what is it that we can do to get them back to understanding that you have a lot of promise and potential?
Yeah, one of my favorite things when I was working with young people was taking them somewhere else. Like I
Right.
remember I had this person, we were helping kids who were trying to catch up and get back to grade level. So it was in the summertime, and I had the like privilege of being able to be the fun thing on Friday. So you get all your work done, you go on a field trip on Friday. We took the kids to a farm where they got to like see all these like peaches and nectarines, and they could take as many home if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
We took them to what was it called? It's in West Virginia, and you get on the inner tubes. What is it called? Anyway, I took these kids from Baltimore City to West Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and they got to be on these like little like whitewater rafting kind of thing, but it was pretty safe.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite was this kid who fell into the water. And this was my hardest kid. He was just like stone cold. He's like, I'm somebody. He was always like almost getting into fights, but not quite. And so he was just one of those kids where I was just like, I can see this is some BS. I can see this is like a barrier that he's put up, and that's fine. So he falls off his raft, right? And so it's basically me, him, and the other kids are still floating down. And I see him. He is screaming. He's like, Mr. W, oh my God. And he's just like doing like this. And I was like, son, just stand up.
Right.
Just stand up. Let me tell you, he stood up.
Oh my goodness.
He was like, okay, water's at his waist. I was like, you okay?
Right.
And he's like, okay. I was like, now we good for the rest of the summer, or am I have to tell anybody this story?
Thanks.
You know what?
Yes,
it's
sir.
crazy. But
Wow.
Once the kids get down to the bottom, and it was just that open area where they can just like float, and they can look down, they can see fish, they can see the rocks. Like you could just tell there was something changing. Like they were seeing like, oh, there's other stuff. And it was a simple field trip. That was a very simple field trip, just getting the kids out into nature. But I think that's what it is. It's just a little bit of exposure. Taking them to DC, taking them to Philadelphia, taking the kids out to one of these areas in the county that's just open green space. It's just seeing that things are not just your community, not just between your school and home, and you can dream outside of Baltimore.
Right.
And you can always dream outside of Baltimore. You can leave it for a little bit. You can come back, and you can bring back your ideas. And so, I mean, it's just like there's nothing worse than seeing a young person who's given up, but you got to shake them. We got to figure out a way to shake them and say, look.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I comment on that?
Go ahead, boy.
Man, I love the story. And it feels like some of the things you're saying is speaking directly out of my life and into my life. Just the exposure is so important, and knowing that the world is bigger than what we see on our block, at our house. Knowing that our experience isn't the only either Black experience or the only experience, period. And typically, where I grew up in the city in West Baltimore, when you say Glen Burnie, we would already turn you off. But like I said, knowing that, the exposure and the experience, having a passport. Not 85% of people that you talk to in Baltimore or young people, period, don't have a passport. I'm gonna say 90% of people families. So when you know that the world is bigger, that the United States is bigger, and just seeing those different things, because unless you know older people, you don't go fishing. You know, you know, you know, like some folk that are well off, you don't go skiing or snowboarding. You don't go rafting and snow tubing. That's not.
I don't mess with skiing. I'm good.
Now listen, I'm a snowboarder. I like snowboarding. I don't mess with skiing at all. At all. It's nothing about two sticks that I want to be holding.
Exactly.
I need to be on the snowboard. But I got that experience back. I remember back in 2000. In 2000, 20 years ago, going snowboarding with my cousins, because my aunt and uncle from PG sent us, and we went to Pennsylvania. And so, like you said, man, my first college tour, I went. One of my first college tours, I went throughout the South to tour colleges. Morehouse and Clark Atlanta and St. Augustine, different places, and then I went. And I was on a debate team, so I went to Louisville, Kentucky, stayed at the University of Louisville for a week. And that was my first ever plane ride. And so, like you said, man, just getting out there. But one thing that you said even more critical is someone taking the time and making the investment. When we younger people, first we want you to be real and authentic. So like you said, sharing your story, man, that blew you past thousands of people right there. The fact that you are willing to be transparent and share your story and be real and help us to learn from what you overcame, that's a million points right there. And then secondly, like I said, the exposure, and then your success.
Right.
I believe firmly at 31 now that success leaves clues. And so the fact that, and thirdly, the fact that you were just willing to take the time and make the investment and see something in those kids that you were working with, man, listen, that's a transformative, life-changing experience. And I'm telling you, those kids, I'm sure, hold you in high regard for the rest of their life. Like Mr. Phillip was rocking with me when nobody else was, and then how you broke down a tough dude, like, hey, look, because you gotta have something on them. You gotta have a one up. I love it. I love it.
And Phillip, I wanted to say this too, because William hasn't said this about himself, but William grew up in Park Heights. William had every single reason to go the wrong way, go down the wrong direction. When I met him, I think he was 17 or 18.
No, about 18.
And I'm one of those people, when I see young people, I invest in them. Like it's like you can look at them and see that they have potential. And the first time I met him, I said, this young man has so much promise and potential. Now, William is working on his second degree right now at Morgan State. And William, what was the award you just got a couple weeks ago?
So I just got a fellowship. It's called the Newman Civic Fellowship, named after a gentleman named Frank Newman. And basically, you have to be civically engaged, but you also have to be a current student. And, it's 1,000 schools that are in this network and in this partnership, in this collective, and about 289 students were selected with some other international countries and U.S. partnership countries. So I'm blessed to have gotten that award.
And I'm so proud of him. And everybody, this is what Phillip is talking about. Like, we have to make a difference. And, when I look at William, and no children, hasn't been in jail, like he's doing so well, but he had every reason to go the wrong way. And
Absolutely.
So it has a lot to do with people investing in him. Even a pastor took him under his wings, and just was there for him. And so it really makes a difference when we go into the community. I think that's what's happened, is that a lot of people are giving up, even on our young people. And I don't know if you're familiar with the guys that march, that they march they were marching every Monday and Thursday night. And I went out on a march with them, and I actually interviewed them, and I was marching with them in Park Heights, where I thought I would never be, like boots on the ground walking at nighttime. So I'm walking with all these guys. But the one thing that I saw that happened was that they were going to hardcore guys standing out on the corner selling drugs and everything. some of these guys just wanted a hug. I saw young men breaking down, crying when these grown men went over to them and said, "Don't do that. Hey, Bree, you should not be on the corner." And they hugged them. And I'm seeing boys break down. So it's so important, everybody, that even though you get those college degrees and you move out of the community, to give back, to always come back and give to the community. And that's what I really love that you're doing, Phillip. I love it. I think it's so great. And for young men to see you as a Black male, and you didn't have the greatest story growing up, but you made something of your life and you're giving back. So kudos to you.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to ask you about.
I was actually gonna say, I get so much out of it. I was working at Maryland Center for Legal Assistance. I was helping a young lady having an issue with a debt collection case, and a young lady, she was about 65 years old, and we're talking. I love because I love just talking to people. So I'm talking to her. I'm writing this little thing for her, and she was just telling me about that she had just hit like something like 10 years of being sober.
Wow.
And again, I don't normally just start talking about my dad. I started talking to her about it, and she was like, "Well, she's like, don't give up on him." I mean, 1992, I believe it was when we found out that he had this issue, and it hasn't been going well, and his health isn't good, and I was just exchanging with her, and it was one of those things where this is why you do it, because she told me to like keep the faith and to like call them and to like check in on them,
right?
Because again, you know what? Let's say it never works out for him. Like, let's say he never sees sobriety again. He's my dad. I love him, and it's good. And I've noticed that when I started to share my story when I was like about 25 years old, I started being more open about it, because I used to be ashamed. It used to be something that, I mean, he got kicked out of the military because of it. But as soon as I started opening up, and I realized other people sharing their stories, because like they had the same thing, or they had a family member or a mom or dad, and I was like, that clicks for me. I was like, that's it. We gotta share with each other, and we gotta remove that shame. We gotta remove anything like that. But yeah, I think about him all the time. He says he's Phillip Westry Sr. He's like, "Son, you made me proud and all this." But yeah, y'all got me thinking about him.
Yeah. That's awesome, because our parents, they do go through struggles, but and that's what I'm doing with my life coaching right now, talking to a lot of people during COVID who are struggling with the fact that when they had the opportunity to see their parents and hug them and love them, they didn't do it. So now COVID is going on. Some of their parents are sick, some have passed away. And so a lot of people are struggling right now. And I'm telling everybody, we have to love our parents where they are. We're the children. We don't really know what they went through as children and growing up. We know what they tell us, but we have to love them where they are and take advantage of every single minute that we have with them, because when they're gone, they're gone. And that's it. So, Phillip, another question I wanted to ask you is, coming into city council, our city right now, when I look at YouTube and I look at Facebook and IG, they're running down just about everybody that's in office. Like they want to do a clean sweep of everybody in office. So how do you feel running and getting ready to come in? We're going to say you won the race, so you're coming into city council. How do you feel coming in? Because it seems like it's a lot of confusion going on right now.
Yeah, and listen, here's the thing. The way that politics works, especially in our community, a lot of people vote for who they know. So there's a good chance that I won't win every neighborhood. So my first thing is, I will look at those places that I lost, where I didn't do as well, and those are the neighborhoods I'm going to go and meet those people and say, "Hey, I'm Phillip. I ran for you. You didn't have to vote for me, but I'm here to represent you." I was talking to this Republican lady. and she can't vote in our primary. But I was like knocking on doors, and she was like, "Don't knock on my door." And I was like, "Ma'am, I wasn't going to knock on your door. You're not a Democrat." But I said, "You know what? I'm running." I said, "If I win, I'm gonna knock on your door because I'm gonna be your representative." And you know, she liked that, and that's the thing though. It can't be all the favors. That's what people are ultimately upset about. Because the person who has the city councilman's ear is a person who can write them a big check, and that's what's been going on. Like the person I'm running against, and not to talk down about him, but I was in a community association meeting. They had this forum. It was like a debate. I'm sitting there, you know, answering questions, and there's a liquor store that people are having an issue with. It's a place called Big Bill's in Oliver. People are saying the owners aren't doing a good job of keeping up the area around. They say they're selling to minors. They're having all these issues. And I go into how you can, you know, challenge somebody's liquor license and all that stuff. And my campaign manager is texting me. I wasn't paying any attention. My campaign manager is texting. And I look at my phone after the forum is over. My opponent has taken a lot of money from Big Bills.
Wow.
And my opponent is from that neighborhood. And they've been to those community meetings, and they know that bar isn't doing well, but they took that check, they cashed that check, and that's the problem. And so like, and when people see that kind of thing, they know who has the ear of people in power. And so it's all about bringing some more transparency to these. Like, for example, I had to raise a lot of money just to get my name ID up, but I raised this money and I decided I'm not going to take any money from developers. I'm not going to take any money from any business that I don't feel comfortable with what they do.
Right.
But it took a lot of money, and I talked to some people that are running in other races, and they're like, "How did you do it?" And I was like, "I had to ask people. I was asking people for $10, $5, $20. If somebody could afford to give $100, say, do you have $100?" But it shouldn't have taken all of this money just to get my message across. But it did. I had to be able to raise that money because I knew the person I was running against was going to be able to get folks to write him a $6,000 check. That stuff, it makes it so that people don't feel like their voice is heard. It makes it so that it's not even. And it also makes it so that the best people aren't in office. Like there are people who are dedicated to the community, but they can't raise $100,000 to run for city council.
Wow. And you know, that I'm not big on politics. I don't know a whole lot about, you know, the inside of it. But the thing that I have heard is that you have to know people and you must have money when you're running. So, you know, and a lot of people, I've interviewed some of the people that do have money, and I've interviewed people who don't. But what you said is so true about people voting for people. They vote for who they know. Is it always the right person? And that's my question. You know, we're voting, but is that the person that needs to be in that seat at that moment? And that's what I see a lot in our city, that people. And Phillip, let me tell you, I worked Elijah Cummings when they had the big race and we had to go out and vote. I actually worked at one of the polls. And I was there most of the day, and there was a lady who was sitting at the door, actually telling people, you know, where to go and you know, different things, directing traffic, basically. At the end of the night, about 7:50, she says to me, "So who's running for office?" And I thought, wow, you've been sitting at the door all day long. She had been at that door. I got there about maybe like 7:30. She was there when I got there, telling me, you know, what to do. Here it is, 10 minutes to 8. And she says to me, "Who's running?" And so I told her what was going on. And, you know, we talked about it. I explained to her how it worked. And, you know, she had a voter's card. And I said, "Well, are you going to go in and vote?" And she said, "Man, I'll do it next time. I'm going home." And I'm thinking, you're right here. You know, you're right here at the door. But there's so many people who don't understand the voting process. They don't know who's running in their district.
Yeah.
And this is what I found from, I've been interviewing the politicians probably, I think, since December. And there are so many people who, after the show is over, they'll like inbox me and say, well, you know, who's he running for? Who's he running it? How do we vote for him? Like in Baltimore, it's like they almost, in the city, they don't understand how this thing works. And I would love to see a forum where, you know, everyone kind of comes together, not to talk about, you know, what they're doing, but to talk about how it works. Because I think if they knew how it works, I think people, what I'm saying is, I think people go in and vote for who they know because they don't understand how the process works.
If I can piggyback off.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. In addition to what you just said, not piggyback, my professor would get on me. In addition to what you said, the more that individuals become educated about the process and not just clicking on people who are Democrat, not just clicking on the names that they know, like the old Eddie Murphy movie said, and like Phillip said earlier, we have to become educated and know about your background, know about your platform, know about your voting record, know about, as you said, Phillip, not in a derogatory way or malicious way, but know about the things that individuals support that are negative, know about the money that leads or sways them. And then last thing I'll say, Phillip, that one of my great friends taught me before he got into politics was that we have to elect people who support or who are going to go and advocate what we and the constituents believe, not what they believe. That it's about what the individuals who have elected you and voted you in. And I think oftentimes, Phillip, a lot of these elected politicians that we currently see have forgotten where they've come from, and they've forgotten who elected them to the office, and that they now stand for what they want, what they believe, and not what the people.
And I mean, I couldn't agree more. And listen, voting this time is going to be a little bit it's going to be a little more confusing. And I'm sure your listeners know about this, and some of them might just be learning about it. So the election was supposed to be tomorrow. It was supposed to be April 28th. It's been pushed to June 2nd, and it's mostly going to be vote by mail. 4 locations chosen for people who need to drop off a ballot for whatever reason, or need to put in a provisional ballot on election day. Everyone is supposed to get a ballot by early May. If you haven't got your ballot by May 8th, you need to contact the Baltimore Board of Elections and tell them that you didn't get your ballot. And I want to give a quick shout out to Joe Kane. I know you guys said did you interview Joe?
Well, I've known Joe. I knew Joe's mom before he was born. So and
I've been knowing Joe for over 15 years. That's really one of my.
I'm really proud of him.
Absolutely. Joe is legit. I always tell people, and listen, I met Joe through this whole process, but I've met a lot of people through this process. Yeah. But Joe, you can tell
he's a real one.
You can feel it. Yeah. And this is the thing. You know, there are over 112 people running across the city.
Okay, I didn't know that.
City council. So it's confusing. That's the other part for people. I talked to some older folks, and they're like, "Why are so many people running for mayor?" And I'm like, "Because they can, I guess."
Right. Exactly.
but it's important that But yeah, you're right. Like that transparency is. So I would say anybody who has the information, the stuff about voting, the stuff about knowing the good candidates, be sure to share that with people too, because the more we all know, the more like we get, we can get better people.
Now, can you tell us one more time when you said the ballots, if they don't have it by May 2nd?
By May 8th.
May 8th. If they don't have it by May 8th. They need to
City Board of Elections.
Yeah, because I really think that's going to be confusing for everybody. This whole ballot thing.
And I want people, and I know people we can get into conspiracy theories and things like that because I know, but there's a way to also track your ballot. Now, this part I haven't looked into as much, but there's a way to track to make sure that your ballot got to the State Board of Elections.
I love it.
There's a tracking number on it. So like, all the information needs to get out there.
Yeah.
that you can feel comfortable that when you put in your vote that it's going to get counted.
Yeah.
But yeah, so ideally we all vote by mail, and hopefully it gets more people voting.
Right.
I think it will.
Yeah, you get the ballot in at home. You get a chance to look at it. You get a chance to think about it. You get to talk to your neighbors. You'll have weeks to make up your mind.
Mm-hmm.
My hope is that people like really think about that stuff, and then they fill it out, send it in. It's free to vote. That's the other part. You don't have to pay postage.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of information. It's a lot of change for people. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully people get out to vote, and maybe we'll see voter turnout increase.
I would say, lastly, I think that this is going to encourage more people to actually get out, actually vote. But what I will say, as an aside, is that I hope everyone is registered to vote. And then secondly, I hope everyone has a correct mailing address so that they can receive the ballot, because a lot of people, they receive in mail at their girlfriend's house or big mama house or their mom's house. So I hope everyone actually receives their ballot at their correct mailing address so they can actually vote.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's a really good point. The address that's on your voter card is where your ballot is going to get sent. So if that's not your physical address, you can update that with the state board of elections. You still have time, I believe. Yes, you still got time. Still got a couple days until that time is up. Otherwise, if you still friends, or if it is going to Big Mama's house, you say, "Hey, did I get my ballot?"
Right.
You vote.
Right.
But my feeling is that she might call you and say, "Your ballot."
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I hope so. Well, Phillip, it's been great talking to you tonight. We have to do this again. I definitely want to get you on again before June, because I want to make sure that this is all explained so people absolutely understand how this is going to work. Because that's the other thing. You know, and I say it all the time. Like they say, if you don't want Black people to know something, put it in a book or write it down. And so we have to get to a point, everybody, where we stop reading what everybody is writing, and we have to ask questions and find out for ourselves. And that's why I do this show, because I want people to be informed. So I'm gonna talk to you probably, sometime in May to see if I can get you back on, so we can really inform people and let them know how this process works, so they can be ready to go out and vote. Because I'm not going to write it down on the page. I want them to listen and get it and really understand how this works, and then share it with somebody else so they actually understand. And Phillip, is there anything else you want to say to us before we go? Because I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Listen, thank you so much for having me on. I'm so proud to have been welcomed by so many people. My campaign, before the COVID thing happened, we knocked on over 32,000 doors in every part of the district, and people recognize it. That's why it's been going so well. Really, I'm blessed to have received, I think, 17 endorsements, and that's from different groups. And I can say the only interest group that I've taken any money from has been some of our labor organizers. So our 1199 SEIU, 32BJ, they represent people who work in security. UFCW, they represent people who work at grocery stores. But again, those are groups that I feel like we're aligned. It's always about the workers, about how we get people paid more, how we get them better healthcare. So that is my interest group. I will tell you, I took their money and I support them fully, because I think it's going to work. It'll be the best thing for our community as a whole.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go to Phillip Westry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go to phillipwestry.com. You can see my whole platform. And listen, thank you for hosting. Thank you all for the questions. And and I wasn't expecting to share all these personal details. You were good. You got me today.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to tell you, on the shows that I'm doing, I'm always telling everybody, we are really transparent. We put our stuff out there. So I always tell people, if you don't want to be transparent, or you don't want any questions, don't come on any of my shows, any of them. Because we sit like we're at home. You know, we sit and we have a conversation, but it's all in good fun. But
Absolutely.
I'm happy. I'm so happy I ran into you, and I pray that you stay safe and that you win, and that everything works in your favor, because you're really doing a great job and you're a great example to our young men out here. So, William, was there anything else you wanted to say to him before we
Man,
go?
listen, accept me on Facebook. Let's
Yes,
stay
sir.
connected. Any way that I can support you, if it's by donation or just about sharing content, by sharing anything on the platform, you got my vote. And I wish I could transfer to East Baltimore in your district to vote for you, brother. But I'm so thankful for you. Anything that I can do, any energy that I can give in support of your campaign. And Miss Charlene knows I don't say this tongue in cheek. I say this truly because just by taking notes on the conversation and by listening to you, I feel the authenticity through the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And so anything that I can do to support you, and I appreciate you being open, being honest, being transparent, and being vulnerable, because not a lot of people will do that. They will give you the surface, they'll give you the subsoil, the topsoil, but they won't go down to the bedrock. And so, you went deep with us. So you got my vote, you got my support, you got my prayers for you and your family and your campaign. And I believe that what I felt in a genuine, real, authentic way, that the voters and your constituents will feel as soon as they encounter you. So whatever I can do, just let me know.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting. I appreciate the show.
Yep,
Yes,
definitely.
Sir. Yes, sir.
And Greg said, great show. He said, thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part of the show. Everybody, next week, we are talking to Mr. Ricky Vaughn. Wait till you hear his story. Wow. I just learned about his story I think it was a few nights ago when he was doing a live. And I'm like, whoa, you never know what people have gone through in their life to get to where they are. So, I'm just thankful. The one thing that is exciting me is that we have Black men who are not in the police car with their arms behind their back. They're actually out here, educated Black men out here doing their thing. So I'm really excited about that. And so next week we'll be talking to Ricky Vaughn, and Christopher Burnett is coming up. We got some great people coming up that we're going to be talking to. So, Godson, I love you. Thanks for coming on. When this Corona thing is over, we can, get back together.
Absolutely.
Phillip, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I'm going to send you a note to let you know what's coming up for me in a few days. And again, thank you for all your words of inspiration that you gave to me. Have a great night, everybody. I hope to talk to you soon. Please be safe. Everybody wear your mask until they tell you to take it off. Wash your hands. Do social
N95, baby. N95. N95, baby.
Yes. Do your social distancing, and hopefully this will all be over where we can get together again and start really, being a community again. So thank you all so much. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you all soon.
Night.
Take care.
Take it easy.
All right.
Love you.
Love you too. And thank you everybody who joined What Up Baltimore. Chilling at home. But that was a great interview with Phillip Westry. Like, he's an awesome person. Thank you so much. Everybody be safe. Thank you, Greg Man, for your words. Your comments. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, everybody. I forgot to add this. Tomorrow night, please join us for a show that I just started. It's called Baltimore's Entrepreneurs. Wait until you see the people that we have on tomorrow. And a couple of those people have really made an impact on my life. Really, seriously made an impact. So please make sure that you join us tomorrow right here it's on the What Up Baltimore page, but it's called Baltimore's Entrepreneurs. Now, if you would like to be on the show, all you have to do is let me know. You can inbox me. You can email me at illneverlookback@gmail.com, which is ILL. Never look back. Yes, I did it for a reason. @gmail.com. And I will talk to you, let you know how the whole thing works. You get to come on. You have 20 minutes to tell us what you're doing, what you're working on, what your hopes and dreams are. Now, let me explain to you, this is a show where people have already started working and they already have their stuff out there. And the goal is to encourage the people who are getting started or who want to get out there. So I encourage you to check out this show. This show is fun. I like doing that one. Baltimore's Entrepreneurs from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the What Up Baltimore page. It's also being broadcasted on YouTube, which I'm working on trying to get. Y'all pray for me. I'm getting YouTube together. It's on some other social media pages. So please join tomorrow, Baltimore's Entrepreneurs. And like I said, next week, we have Mr. Ricky Vaughn coming on from 8 to 9 on What Up Baltimore. We'll be talking to him. He's actually a mayoral candidate for Baltimore City. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you to my godson, William. Love you. And thank you so much to Mr. Phillip Westry. Oh man, he's amazing. And I tell you, if you're in his district, make sure you vote for him. He's in District 12. He's running for city council. And just let him know to say hi, give him a donation, whatever you can do to help him out. He's one of us. So everybody take care. Have a great and wonderful night. Make sure you stay safe in Baltimore City. Talk to you soon.